It's your time. Yeah. It's your time. It's your time. It's time. It's your time. It's your time. It's your time. It's your time. It's right there. It's your time. Just be the one. The one you would call on. What are you waiting for? Do for yourself. Just be that force. If you can see it now, you'll be self-actualized. What are you waiting for? We are the visionaries. It's your time. It's your time. It's your. Have you lost your way? It's your time. It's your time. It's your. What are you waiting for? Let's think. What is inside of you? What are you? What? Why keep praying? Why keep begging? Stop begging. Why keep waiting? Why only leads to more confusion? So just be. Be that which you call upon. Be that which you wait upon. You are the self-actualized Savior. You. Nothing is flying in the sky, waiting to come and do the work that you came to the planet to do. You be Haru. You be Ma'at. You be Seta. You be Asor. You be Oset. You be Sobek. You be Shango. You be Oshun. You be Yemosha. You be Odurua. You be Obatala. You be Iyami. You be Eshu. You be Ogun. You be Oya. You be Nanan Buruko. You be Shiva. You be Apollo. You be Krishna. You be Kepra. You be Ganesha. You be Dionysus. You be Hermes. You be Hanuman. You be Jehuti. You be Anpu. You be Brahma. You be Pan. You be Zeus. You be Vishnu. You be Hercules. You be Kali. You be Kuan Yin. You be Buddha. You be Rudra. You be Christ. You be Krishna. You be Shiate Wiles. You be Sintala Ndoki. You be Lucero. You be Ilegba. You be Ursuli Danto. You be Ursuli Freda. You be Dambala. You be Ayuedo. You be Lavaline. You be Azaka. You be Renbois. You be La Sarine. You be Cindy. You be the Ogan. You be the Mambo. You be Ran Ibo. You be Man Brigitte. You be Baron Samedi. You be Masala Flamble. You be the Petro. You be the Rada. You be Agwe. You be Marasa. You be Orisha Oko. You be Gemini. You be Shu. You be Tefnut. You be Geb. You be Nut. You be Set. You be Nebuchadnezzar. You be Kansu. You be Kanum. You be Min. You be Minchu. You be Mut. You be Nefertim. You be Nebuchadnezzar. You be Net. You be the Netcher. You be the Netter. You be the Noon. You be Patah. You be Amun Ra. You be Sekhmet. You be Serket. You be Seshat. You be the supreme. You be the all-encompassing intelligence. You be the Ori. You be the Ka. You be the Ba. You be Allah. You be the Christ. You be the 13th zodiac. Go through the center and be. Wow. On this song about self-actualization, I give it to my Egun. Grandma, you are the glue that keeps both sides of my family together. I'm thankful. Grandpa, you are the consummate Ogun. You are the strength of my family. You are the iron will of my own imagination. I will lose my conscious thought and go into the realm of actualization.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome. Shabbat Shalom all. I'm glad to see you all here. Up. I guess for some it may feel bright and early after we just finished another mini marathon last night with our study sessions. Thank you for the number ones. I do see them in the chat. I'm glancing over there, so I know that I am heard. Beautiful. All right. So, in our session, in our insight last strong, we talked about the seed of Satan, and we're going to kind of continue with the sort of addendum to that information in that session. But first, I'd like to say that I am Chief Yuya, and I'm the Chief Jugna of the Anu Nation. And for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. You're always welcome. And thank you for coming through. And willfully, you will hear something in this session that will spark thought and just spark activity, spark mental activity, spark spiritual activity, begin to heal your emotional body, and to help you to ground and balance out your physical body. Ultimately, that's what we're here for, to raise up and to resurrect, that which has been, for some of us, dead and atrophied for many years. For some of us, we have not used our minds in a really, really, really long time. And as a result, our spirits have shrunk to the size of an atom, though we have really kind of invested ourselves in our personality and our history and our trauma and things like that. But we haven't really been fed on a spiritual level. So willfully, you'll have an opportunity, man, to be fed in that way. That's what we definitely will. And I guess as some would say, pray for. If that's the sort of language that you're accustomed to hearing and to using. All right. So, like I said, man, in our last session, we talked about the seeds of Satan. And it seems that, people were kind of really rolling with that one, and they were understanding where we were coming from with that particular lesson. And I'm glad, just from some of the feedback people have given, it seems like that was a spark. That was one where the ferro rods were lighting off, and there were things popping off in people's heads. We're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. This makes sense. And, the key is to have the right information, not just knowledge in general, because certain knowledge can be harmful. And I'll speak on that a little bit. But to have the right knowledge, right and exact knowledge, and the proper information, but infor atum, where you're informing atum, the core, the center of your being, where you're informing. So you have an out form and you have an in form, but you're seeking to form that better self within you and inform that person within you to form it back into the shape that it's supposed to be in. So the person outside of you extends and projects, a better person into the world. And you do that with right and exact information. So that way now when you're moving through the world, your intellect, we have intellect, we have outellect. Your intellect now speaks and unfolds a reality that is best for your journey and best for your path, as opposed to sometimes the process we go through of cursing ourselves. We spoke about that slightly. I gave an example at the very end last night of our session, and I said, just to be very brief, because many of you were there, but for those of you who weren't, I said, it's a trick sometimes that we fall under just through the use of language or the improper use of language. And one of the examples that I had given was Christians who go to church on Sunday, and they call that Sunday worship. But even though the scriptures say use the term seventh day and Sabbath, why don't Christians say I'm going to Sabbath? Even though we know that Sabbath is not your first day or Yom Rishon or Sunday, it's actually Sabado or Saturday or Saturn's day. But nonetheless, when I say Sunday worship out of my mouth, I'm saying sun worship. Where are you going? To sun worship, to Sunday worship, to sun worship, right? So there is a distinct responsibility we have to learn what it is that we're saying, especially when we're living in a time where we can acknowledge, for some of us, our original tongue has been taken, right? So why was it replaced with the one that we're currently using? And what did our prophets and our leaders and our ancestors of old, what language did they use to not only build great kingdoms, but what language did they use to uncover deep truths about the cosmos and the universe? It wasn't English, obviously, So it's important to understand where things are coming from, because then you find yourself trapped in something, right? So that's an example. Another thing that sort of crossed my mind as I was sitting down and putting a format to what I wanted to share today. When we speak about the seeds of Satan, you notice I said seeds, plural, and not seed. Recognizing that there are many, or there are multiple. There's more than one. Unfortunately, sometimes through our programming and our indoctrination within Western madness and craziness, we're taught about this one individual who somehow has the ability, like Santa Claus, Satan Claus, has the ability to go all around the world and cause all of this turmoil and all of these problems for all of these different people. And somehow he's got like the power of God Almighty. He's omnipresent. He can be, in so many different countries, in so many different places, in so many different compartments and rooms at once. The all-powerful Satan, the all-powerful devil. And again, just another bit of confusion that's handed to us so we can never really spot the devil. I would ask, and I'll put this even to those of you who are listening, you feel free to put it in the chat or in the comments later. If you were able to, like, we know that like Moses, when he climbed, or Musa, when he climbed the mountain and he saw the backside of the Most High, his hair turned white and he aged. Yeah. That would happen from several different things, but that's a story for another day, right? But we know that happened. So I would ask you all, what do you think your reaction or response would be if you came face to face with the devil? If you came face to face with the devil, right? Now, however you imagine that devil to be, whether it's someone in a red suit with a pitchfork, whether it's this, beast that looks somewhat like a gargoyle, or a sort of feline sort of type of monstrous creature, like Beast from Beauty and the Beast, or, from the X-Men. However you picture, it could be like, you know, who's the one? I think his real name is Craig. I can't remember. Nightcrawler from X-Men. It may be like that. But if you were to come face to face with whatever you have conceptualized as being the devil, what would your reaction slash response be? Now, reaction is what we use. It's an emanation from emotion, right? When we act, a response is an emanation from thought, right? So you might be like, I would just react. I would be stuck in how I feel, and I wouldn't be able to do anything. Or you might be like, I would ask this question, or I would say, Satan, get thee behind me, or whatever it is. But I put that question to you in this moment. What exactly would your response be? Right. And I won't say what I'm going to say next. I'll give it a little bit of a little bit of time, and then I'll come back to that. Right. So it's important for us to first understand the relationship that many of us may have with this creature we know as the devil, or as Satan. When I did the seeds of Satan, and I shared that, one of the important things that I wanted to share and sort of get across to everyone was the ongoing sort of experience of the satanic experience, or the ongoing experience of the devilish experience, as opposed to imagining, you may be reading certain stories and certain mythologies, and it sort of creates this terminal sort of thinking, well, that happened and now we're here, and I spoke about the casting out of heaven, how angels are still being beguiled and tricked out of heaven. Like, it didn't end, so the imagination that sometimes is created through the mythology in these little cute little books, and it can really throw you off if you don't know how to read the cute little books, right? You remember Helios Biblios. Biblios means little books. So Helios sun books, the little sun books. Helios Biblios, where you get the Holy Bible, right? If you really begin to understand and learn and take into honor and respect the nature of the Creator, you'll realize that some of these books are just cute. Some of them, they're powerful if you know how to read them, but this experience is larger than the books, because someone allowed certain things to be put in the books, and someone allowed certain things to be extracted from the books. And you have to be able to do the alchemy on what's in front of you, right? And that's in everything, whether you're reading the Quran, whether you're reading the Torah, you have to still be able to do alchemy. And anyone who tells you that you don't, it's just religious. You're just speaking to a religious person. And one of the sad things is that you have people who are very religious, but don't even respect their religion enough to learn the language of that religion. When like, I know Brother Raheem has spoke about, a situation he had where he was talking to a friend who was bragging about his pastor. If you are a Christian and your pastor is a Christian, and your pastor does not take the time to learn Hebrew or even to learn Latin, then your pastor does not love you or the congregation. And I know you may feel a certain way about that. That's called a reaction. You see, that's called a reaction, right? But if you have an intelligent response, you realize what I'm saying is correct. It doesn't take a lifetime to learn Hebrew. You have young people who learn Latin in high school. It doesn't take a lifetime to learn these things. But how dare you come and speak to me about a God and the devil, and you don't even understand the language that these things were written in. Aramaic is a language that can be learned as well, but some languages are extremely accessible to learn. It's not like you have to go live in another country for 15, 20 years and study under a secret initiation system to learn Hebrew, whether it be ancient Hebrew or what we call biblical Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, or if it be modern Hebrew. But if you don't speak any Hebrew, then, you don't know any words other than Mazel Tov, and Shalom and L'chaim, then you don't love your congregation. You don't love those who the Most High has put in front of you, for you to serve properly. You don't love them. All right, so now I'm going to go over some of your answers really quick. I'm going to make this an interactive insight. I don't always do that. Usually during the insights, I don't respond to the chat. So I know sometimes people put questions in there while I'm speaking, and I let other people answer them. But this time I'm gonna read some of the responses to my own question. All right, so first response, typical of Menelik. Menelik says, I'd probably say something sarcastic to hide my astonishment. I believe you. Brother Ra says, I think I'd freeze first, reaction, then ask what the devil wants with me and why it's here. Yamina says, be gone. I can't even picture that. She doesn't even raise her voice. Maybe without the exclamation mark, she might. Sister Yafe says, I can honestly say I don't know. Well, I guess you'd get dragged down to hell. But no, I'm joking. Brother Zach says, my nerves would have to calm down before I could ask anything. Jason says, my reaction would be anger. My response would be like, well, how do I kill you? Ooh, that's a man thinking like I think. How do I kill you? Interesting. Abarut says, I would feel awkward because he would be a reflection of myself / an average individual. Really don't have to say anything else. Abarut just gave you my punchline. We could play some music if you want. I got some albums. Every time I play albums, though, that's why I stopped playing them. I used to play them before my videos get marked. But I got some new records I picked up. Well, some new old records, because Abarut pretty much just finished the segment. I'll read the rest of y'all just out of respect. Out of respect. Let's see. House of Yuya says, I would speak to the devil. I would speak truth and words of power from my L. Okay, you'd probably get snatched up too. Sovereignty says, I would probably say, I know who you are. You should not tempt Yahuwah. Abarut says again, I would say he would be a shapeshifter. Most likely. Abaderic says, I would ask him what he learned since he fell. Ooh, great question. Great question. And then he might turn around and be like, what for? Then what would you do? What if he said, what for, my son? Abaderic be looking in his head for that 666. Am I the Antichrist? South the Harvest says, first, I would like to know if he is the real Satan or another one of the counterfeit demons that represent him. Great question. Great question. That's, oof. Man, y'all are really doing well. I'm going to say that. Y'all are really doing well. Kairu says, after I realized that what it was, I'd have to go deep within, calm down, and know my authority according to truth, and check to see if it's a reflection of me in some way. If not, why are you here? Great answers. Great answers. Yeah, man. Wonderful answers. You have you ever heard the term like, or like you see an instance, maybe sometimes like in a movie or a sitcom or something, or maybe someone does it, in real life, where they stare into a like a mirror, and they say, "Oh, you handsome devil, you." That's a term that people use sometimes. "Oh, you handsome devil," right? Have you ever considered that? I can't really read all of the chat at the same time. My battery's dying. Try to plug this in a little bit, see if that helps. Probably won't. That's a low watt charger. But anyway, going to what Abba Harut said. Sometimes you look at yourself and say, "Oh, you handsome devil," right? El Karar said, "I would quote of the movie line from Little Buddha when Mara turns into Siddhartha." Yeah, man. These are great answers. Let's explore some of this, man. Like I said, Abba Harut pretty much shut it down. If there's any answer you want to take notes on, I'd say a couple: Abba Jason's, Abba Harut's, and Safta Ahaba's. Yeah. So if you're taking notes, you want to go through the chat. You want to screenshot or copy those three. Those three have a lot of wisdom in them, right? So one of the things that you'll find is interesting, and I think I spoke about this when we got into the seeds of Satan, is that there's sort of the devil gets a bad rap. And I've said that before, man. The devil really do the devil kind of dirty. The devil gets a bad rap. When you read about the story in Genesis 3 with the serpent, we told the devil in the garden, what the devil did in the garden, the devil in the garden. But let's look at that for a second, right? Leviticus 17:7. As I was sitting, I was just kind of going through a brief meditation where I was just pulling concepts and explanations, even maybe if you would, around some of these concepts. And what's interesting is that when we read in Genesis 3, we have this term called Nakash. So it doesn't say the devil, it says the Nakash. The Nakash, and I broke that down last time, would be the seraph or the seraphim. And it's important to know what these words mean, right? But the Nakash. But there are people say, "Oh, well, that's the devil." But we don't actually, the first time we see the word devil in that series of books is Leviticus 17:7. I'm going to get into that for a second, right? So we have the serpent, which is the Nakash. And I think many of us probably have a good idea of like what a serpent is, right? But let's look at 17:7. It's on the screen. "And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations." Oh, you mean accorded is plural. So the very first instance you have of that word devil in your scriptures, it's actually pluralized. It's not a single person. It's not a single entity. Now we have an issue now, right? So, again, because I care about those who I speak to, I actually do learn the language. So the word devils there is Sirah, right? And if you understand what that word means, it's a pretty important word. It's not Nakash, right? So we're not talking about serpent at this point. We're not talking about the Nakash. We're talking about something else, right? This is your first instance of the word um, devil. So it's that Sirah or Sair. You can use Sair, depending on, because in Arabic it's one thing, in Hebrew it's another thing. But the Sair or the Sirah is a hairy creature, or a creature that has hair. Now, why is that important? Well, because in Genesis 3, where we have the word Nakash used, it's a serpent. There are no serpents or snakes that have hair on the planet Earth. They do not have hair, nor do they have fur. Hair and fur are not the same thing. They have scales, but no hair and no fur. So that tells us, it's real simple, that the Nakash of Genesis 3, which many people say that was the devil, was not the devils. The first instance we have in Leviticus 17:7, which was the Sair, they were not the same thing. Okay, so let's start there. They were not the same thing. All right, Nakash is not Sair. Right. So this is our first instance of something that's maybe been given back to us in the wrong way. But then I know we'll say, well, yeah, that they were all El Shaitan, or Ha Shaitan, or Shaitan. Ha, remember, Ha in Hebrew means the. That's an important prefix, because if I say the Satan, it's an office, it's a title, as opposed to saying Satan, which you might be tricked into thinking is an actual name. But let's go to Satan for a second. The first time we see Satan in the book is First Chronicles. Now, if you think about it, man, these are pretty spaced out. These are pretty spaced out for them to be the same entity. And we already proved that the Nakash is not the Sair. We already got that part. That part is down part, right? So the Sair is a hairy creature. The Nakash is a serpent. Serpents don't have hair. Then on top of that, and again, this is an addendum. This is to help you with your notes on the seed of Satan, or the seeds, of Satan podcast or segment that I did. Now we have Satan, but we don't get the word Satan to First Chronicles 21. That's the first time we see the word Satan, right? And that says Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take a census of Israel. So essentially, now when you break down the word Satan, when you look at what it means adversary. That's it. So now we got 3 doggone words, but your pastor or whoever told you that this is one person, not people. You remember I said people. We're going to come back to that. Remember I said people, not people, one person. The serpent, doggone the devil, doggone Satan is one person, but they don't even fit the same physical description. You know, when you go into a wicked court for the injustice system that we live in, you are allowed to stand before your accuser. That's law. It's criminal court. You can stand before your accuser. If I say, hey, Abba Derek, I was walking down the street, Abba Derek knocked me down, took my wallet out of my back pocket. Like I would carry my wallet in my back pocket. Right. I look like I look like real Mark with a wallet in my back pocket. But anyway, right? Let's just say I go run to the courts, to the magistrate, and say, boom, his name is Derek, and he took my stuff and my wallet that was in my back pocket. So then they send an attorney out. I'm giving you the real terms. And the attorney then goes and finds Abba Derek and does what's called an attornment process, where he turns Abba Derek over to me, over to the state, to stand before his accuser. doggone it. One of the definitions of Satan is the accuser of the saints. The accuser of the saints. So you're supposed to be able to stand if Satan says, boom, you did this, that, you're supposed to be able to stand before Satan according to the laws of this land. We'll get into that another time, but it will really take you into an interesting direction as to who the devils are. So because we already know the first instance, Leviticus 17:7, that we saw the word devil, it was plural. Devils. Then David, Satan rose up, but Satan means adversary. The adversary. So let's retranslate this in the right way. Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take census of Israel. So David said to Joab and the commanders of the troops, take the census, right? But let's do it the way it actually would have been said. The adversary stood up against Israel, made David get up and count the Israelites. He counted like, how many warriors do I have? Like, because the adversary rose up against David and he got shook. He got shook and took inventory. He's like, wait a minute, how many people, how many warriors do we have? So we already have three different things happening already in terms of title and in terms of name, right? So let's talk about the devil a little bit. Let's talk, and I know like that probably scares people even. I'm sure people may even leave the room based off of that. They talk about the devil, but the scriptures first time was introduced said devils. Devils. That is so important for you to understand. Because like I said, we live in a society where you are tricked, not only out of your divinity, not only out of what causes you to ascend and to rise to the highest levels of Shemayim, but you're also tricked as to what causes you to fall into the different levels of Sheol. Many of you are taught, especially from a Christian perspective, there's heaven. It's just heaven where God and the angels are, and streets of gold and the pearly gates and heaven, right? But then there's levels of hell. There's 7 levels to hell. That's crazy. So like, if you tell me, like, if I go to high school and I got junior varsity, I got JV and I got varsity, and I want to play basketball, I can play. I got intramurals, I got JV, I got varsity. I'm gonna get on a team, and somebody gonna let me on the team. I may not be good enough for varsity, but I may be good enough for JV, right? But then you tell me there's one team, there's varsity. You got one shot to get onto varsity, or you don't play. That's rough. So now, according to your Christian understanding, you got one heaven that you could possibly get into, but you got a bunch of different hells that will take you at, maybe you a little devilish, you're a little bit of a demon, we'll take you, but if you want to go hard and really be demonic, you can go a little bit and then you go a little bit more, You ever kill anybody? Okay, a little bit more, you ever look at your grandmother's butt and then, go upstairs to your room and masturbate to the grandma? Oh, we're gonna take you, but so we got all these different levels of hell, but only one heaven reality. Insane. When we look at the word Shemayim means heavens. And if you remember the last session, I told you straight off in Genesis, we're told 3 levels already. Where the firmament is, above the firmament, that's it, and then everything beneath the firmament, that's 3 right there. That's 3 already. But you're taught to believe there's one heaven and a bunch of different, levels to hell. That's off. That's off, right? So let's talk about, again, we get into the devil a little bit in our understanding of what the devil is up to. What is the devil? What the heck is the devil doing? Because we already figured out something very important, that the Nakash is not the devil. Nakash is not the devil. Okay. And we already figured, or the devils, or maybe. And we already figured out that the Satan is just the adversary, or Hashatan is also, well, we'll get into what Hashatan also is, right? So who is the devil fighting? Who is the devil against, right? Let's go to Psalms 82:6. Psalms 82:6. Psalms 82:6. Many of you have probably heard this one. I think many of you probably use it to justify maybe what you consider to be a divine position or a divine culture that you were born with. Ye are gods, or Yahs, and all of you are children of the Most High. Okay, so now that term Most High is really important. That term is Most High is extremely important. And I want you to understand that not everyone uses the term Most High. Not everyone uses that term. Even in Scripture, you got to know that there's a difference when you see the word Lord versus when you see the word God, versus when you see Most High. They're not talking about the same entity. For some, they're talking about Elohim. And then for others, they're talking about El Elyon. You see, it's not the same. It's not the same. Just like I spoke about last strong, where I said when you have a pantheon of Elohim, or a pantheon of powerful ones, there are father deities and there are child deities, right? That is it's a very normal thing. We all know that Heru is a child of Asar. But what we tend to leave out a lot, which is important in that, is that Heru is the child of Asar and Aset. So there is sex that happens, in order for children to be born, right? Now I'm going to give you something. This is important. We're going to read pretty much the whole verse, because I want you to get this. Abraham, remember I shared with you before that Yahushua HaMashiach is the culmination of the full journey of Abraham. It starts with Abraham and ends with what you call the Christ, or the Christ. But it starts with Abram, and then it goes to the Christ, right? Now you might be like, what the heck does this got to do with the devil? Go for the ride. You're gonna get it. Don't worry about it. Just go for the ride. So if we look at, and we know that Abraham and Yahushua, they come out of the same order. Now you would think, well, all these Christians come out of the same order, or people who were followers of the way. No, they didn't. They did not. That was the issue. They did not. Remember, I spoke to you before about when Yahushua, really El, was chastising the Elohim. And he was like, yo, you suffer the wicked. You let people do whatever they feel like doing. He's talking to counterfeit deities who were pretending to be him, but they were his sons. And he was chastising them on the mount of the congregation, the other gods. And he was like, yo, you letting wicked people do this and that, and you should be promoting this culture, this kind of people who do this, people who do that, and you're promoting evil. You're counterfeit. Because not every what you might call a savior came out of the same order. You see, if you read even New Testament, there was a time that Yahushua is called the Messiah, and then there's another time where he's called the Christ. That's done on purpose. You read John 1:41. John 1:41. And you start to see that there are things that are being twisted right in front of you in the little books. And if you don't know how to read them properly, you go with the twist and turn of the discretion there. John 1:41, he first findeth his own brother Simeon, and saith unto him, we have found the Messiah, which is being interpreted the Christ. It was right there in front of you the whole time. being interpreted to Christ. What does that say to you? You know, I've had people say to me before, when I hear you speak, I hear the voice of God. I've had that said to me several times. Sometimes I even joke and play with it a little bit. You know, when people hear me, I guess I don't look like how my voice should sound. I think I'm supposed to be darker. But people say, man, I didn't expect that to come out. Like, I didn't know you had a voice like that. And I'll joke and be like, oh, it's the voice of God, right? But is it though? Is it really? Right? So somebody could say, I heard his voice and interpret it as God speaking. But was it really though? Or is that how you perceived it? And then it somehow got into the book. And then now a whole system was based around your perception. Hebrews 5. For every priest taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to Yah, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sin. Who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for that he himself also is compassed with infirmity. And by reason hereof he ought, as for people, so also for himself, to offer for sins. And no man taketh his honor unto himself, but he that is called of Yah, as was Aaron. Pay attention. For also Christ glorified not himself to be made a high priest, but he that said unto him, Thou art my son, today have I begotten thee. And he saith also in another place, this is everything right here. This is all of it. And he say also in another place, Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Melchizedek, which is really Melchizedek. Melchizedek. I think that's Wyclif's sister's name. But Melchizedek. Melchi many. Sedek righteous. Melchizedek, the many righteous ones. Melchizedek, right? The many righteous ones. Well, hell, saying like devils be like the many evil ones. Who in the days of his flesh, when he offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying, though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. Pay attention, this is everything right here. And this has everything to do with the devils. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all that obey him. Called of Yah, a high priest after the order of Melchizedek, of whom we have many things to say and hard to be uttered, seeing ye are dull of hearing. What an insult. For when for time ye ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of Yah, and are become such as we have need of milk and not strong meat. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. You know, there have been so many times I have taught things and people have said, well, I never heard this before. How do I know this? Somebody said that to me the other day, matter of fact. The fool tried to challenge me. Sound like my man from the Education of Sonny Carson. About all that fighting stuff. Well, y'all probably don't know that movie. But anyway, fool thought he could whoop me. Look, his whole style is chump. Good movie, The Education of Sonny Carson. But fool tried to challenge me, and I said, don't do this. Do not do this, please. And I was sharing, tried to challenge me on scripture. Don't want to sound like that. Tried to challenge me on scripture, thinking that I was only dealing with Quran because I was quoting the Quran. And then fool tried to, I said, whoa, whoa, you quoted that wrong, and went back the other way on them. I said, okay, well, let's go to Torah then, right? And they were like, well, I never heard anything like this before. You're the first one I ever heard it. Yeah, because your pastor is still drinking milk and can only teach milk because your pastor isn't fully grown. And I understand you said, well, your bishop, rather. I understand your bishop is old enough to be my grandfather and all that. I got all that. Yeah, no doubt. Well, that's a damn shame to be that old and still be drinking milk. That's sad. You see, but we find here that even Yahushai had an order that Yahushai was a part of. Now, this was the same order of that order of Melchizedek was the same order that Abraham was a part of as well. Okay, because they always responded the same way. They would always put their face to the ground and cry. That was a part of, we call that ballet and Isheshe, or what some of you may call Ifa studies or Orisha studies. We call it ballet when we totally prostrate and put our face to the ground. You know, we have Genesis 14:17. Genesis 14:17, where we see Abraham, Abram and Yahushai, they actually have the same exact swag because they came from the same order. And the king of Sodom went out to meet after his return from the slaughter of Chedor Laomer, and the kings that were with him at the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High. Got it? Most High. Very important term. The Most High is not the Elohim. The Most High is not the Elohim. I'm not done. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the king, he was the priest of the Most High Yah. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram of the Most High Yah, possessor of heaven and earth. Possessor of heaven and earth. Blessed be Abram of the Most High Yah. Abram later becomes Abraham, right? So you'll find out through proper study. We can even pull I get Genesis 17:3. If someone can put it on the screen, I don't have to pull it up. Genesis 17:3. And that's where it says Abram fell on his face crying, right? But you can put it on the screen so they have the exact one. Abram fell on his face crying, and Abram fell on his face, and Yah talked with him saying, right? So when Abram would have to pray, they would ballet. Again, I know I'm speaking Yoruba, but you know, they would prostrate. They would go all the way down to the ground when something was happening, right? That's one of the things that was done for those who came out of the order of Melchizedek. But then we have in Matthew, right? Matthew 26:39, where it speaks about Yahushai. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "Oh, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt." You know, like, it's not about what I want. It's about what you want. But when I'm praying, I fall flat on my face. You see? They came out of the order of the Most High. Not necessarily the order of Jehovah. Not necessarily that order. Okay. Let's get into it now. Now, what does that mean for things, and why is that important? Remember Psalms 82:6. You are Yah's and all of your children, and you are all children of the Most High. Children of the Most High. Not necessarily children of the Elohim, but children of the Most High, right? Who's the Most High? Elion. See, the devils are not at war with the Most High. That's something you got to understand. The devils were never at war with the Most High. The devils are at war with the Elohim. It's not the same. The devils are at war with the Elohim, not the Most High. Can't nobody, your arms are too short to box with God. Some of you may not remember that play from the 80s. That was a good play though. I saw it. I think Desiree, no, that was My Mom Want to Sing, Desiree Coleman. But nonetheless, I digress. So we're talking about different entities and different wars, but when it's given to you in your sort of your Christian paradigm, if you will, and I don't mean to just be trashing Christians all the time, but I know many people, they come out of the churches and they come out of the masjids and they come with either a Eurocentric perspective of the way, or they come with an Arab-centric perspective of the way, and they get it twisted. At the end of the day, they get it twisted. When we hear about evil for the first time, we hear about evil as not being a person, but it's associated with fruit. It's associated with a tree. This is in Genesis, right? So we start to understand there was a tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? And that was a problem, to eat of that tree. Why was that a problem, to eat of that tree? Why would that create? And I know you're saying, I thought we were talking about devils, and I thought you were talking about the Most High. We're still there. But you have to understand, we have to sort of sometimes break apart the code and break apart the programming in order to get to sometimes the simple truth. It's like that when you're working on a car sometimes. A head gasket, it's just a thin piece of felt. Head gasket, you can get a head gasket for like $15. But do you know the work that you have to go through to expose the block to get to the head? That's why when your head gasket blows and you take it to a mechanic and they tell you this would be $1,500, this would be $2,000 to fix on up. And then you go online and you look up the part on eBay, you're like, wait a minute, head gasket is just a little thing that don't cost nothing. But getting to it is all the work. Getting to it is all the work. Or for some cars, changing a water pump. You darn near got to disassemble the transmission on some cars just to get to the water pump. So they tell you, hey, if you're going to do the water pump, you might as well do this job, that job, do your timing belt at the same time. Do all these different things if you're going to do the water pump, because it's a pain to get to. That's how sometimes teachings are. It may be a very simple truth. Ye are gods. Okay. No effect. So I have to disassemble the whole engine of the beguilement that's been put on your brain. I got to take the whole engine apart and then point at, see that little thing right there? Here, see, look, I got my flashlight. See, look. All right, that's what you need to focus on. But we have to remove all this stuff out of the way to get there. Sometimes teaching is that way, right? Why was the knowledge of good and evil so bad? Or the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Because too much knowledge produces devils. Devils are spurned from an excess of knowledge. But here's the flip of it. Too little knowledge produces devils. So when you are eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and you don't know how to properly regulate your diet, you will turn yourself into a devil. Remember, the first instance we have of devil, the word devil in the book, it was multiple devils, right? So we already know straight up there's not one devil, because the first time we see it in the book is multiple devils. So who came later and was like, oh, there's one? They lied to you. Then Satan can be recreated, because Satan is just an office. Hashitan is just an office. How do we know? Well, let's go to Mark 3:23. Mark 3:23. And we see about this sort of, and we could say, well, maybe that's just allegorical, but we see about this process of creating. And he called them unto him, and he said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? How can Satan cast out Satan? Now you might say, oh, that's just like a person telling himself, well, I can't remove myself from the room, even though you can. But, you might say that. Okay, cool. Well, then let's go to Matthew 12:26. Let's go to Matthew 12:26, because we always have witnesses. We got to have precepts. I can't accuse you of something and not have a witness. I got to have 2 or 3 witnesses for it to be real. Well, those 2 or 3 witnesses we call, in literary structure, when we're dealing with scripture, we call those precepts. Okay, Matthew 12:26. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? Well, we know that hasn't happened, because Satan's kingdom is getting like super duper powerful. So we know that it's not divided. It's growing. It's growing more and more every day. Then we have Psalms 106. Psalms 106:37. Look it up real quick. Now, this is where it all gets funky for us today, right? When we talk about the creation of a devil, this is where it comes from today. Psalms 106:37. Yea, they sacrifice their sons and daughters unto devils. You notice it's plural again? It's plural once again. Unto devils. That means we all have an opportunity to get down with the devil's running the team. We all have the opportunity to be on the devil's team. It's open, right? Because there are devils. So there's different ways that you can get in. Now, how did they sacrifice their children to the devils? Here we go. You ready? It's about to zip. We're gonna do a little zipping back and forth, but when we finish with the zipping, you're gonna be zopped. You're gonna get it. So, have any of us ever sacrificed our children to the devils? I would say yes. I would say yes. You have Molech, right? And I spoke about that. I think I did a segment years ago on Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger, and I spoke about Molech and Astarte and the sacrifice of children. But it ain't even that that gruesome. One of my like, I thought was one of the most beautiful shows of all time. There's a couple of them, like Rock. I thought Rock was a really, really good show. Roseanne was very informative as to what Black life is in America, and I know Roseanne was about a white family, but they were Black. That was the blackest show on TV at that time, really, was Roseanne. Both obese. Little son is like half crazy. The house is always dirty. Furniture look used and old. They getting fired from jobs. The husband cheats on Roseanne. The aunt Jackie, the sister Jackie is a hoe. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were Black. So different world. I always really enjoyed, because of the images that were put forth in terms of higher education and community and some community for young people, and especially for those of us in the North. There were certain things that came out back in the days, like the movie School Days, which A Different World was based off of. That really made us like want to go down south. It was like, man, you have all these HBCUs down south, and it's like, it did look like a big party, but like, it's like, man, like all these beautiful, Southern girls, and, like Maze had that song Southern Girl, and, it's the weather's nice all the time and stuff like that. And it looked like Black folks are down there actually doing some things. We didn't have that so much in the North, you know. But what were they in school learning? They were in school learning the devil's system. We all know that. We know that. You have a master's. It just means that you have a deeper level of indoctrination into the devil's system. You say, okay, well, I'm going to go for my JD. I want to go into law. Whose law are you learning? Are you learning the law of the Most High, or are you learning the devil's law? I could pretty much bet and guarantee you go in to learn the laws of the devil. So when you read Psalm 106:37, yea, they sacrifice his sons and daughters unto devils. When you let your children go out and study the ways of the world, the devils run the world. They study the ways of the world. You have just sacrificed your children to the devils. How much time do people take to learn the laws of Yah? In fact, what happens when after people have learned the devil's laws in the devil's society, and you say, I live by the laws and commandments, they say, there's over 600 laws and commandments. How are you going to do all that? And then I always sometimes will say, well, are you a criminal? Are you a felon? No. So you practice the laws of this land. How many are there? There are so many. You're not supposed to urinate in the street. You're not supposed to run red lights. You're not supposed to assault people verbally or physically. We have a certain side of the road that we're supposed to drive on. You're not supposed to have broken tail lights. You're supposed to use turn signals when you drive. There's even signals that you use when you're riding a motorcycle. There's different arm signals this way, that way, right? We have all of these different laws. You can't steal things. We have contractual laws that we're all kind of aware of. I got to pay my phone bill. If I don't pay my car note, they're going to take my car, and the sheriff is allowed to come onto my property and take my car and to repossess it. We know all those laws because we were sacrificed to the devils. But then if someone says, do you know the laws of the Most High? Not the lower laws of the Elohim, which some of them are devils, but the laws of the Most High. Nah, I know the 10 Commandments. But some of that's a little weird because one of the commandments is thou shalt not kill. But then we read 2 chapters later in Exodus 22, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. You just told me don't kill nobody. Because you were taught to think all of those laws are coming from one entity. You don't even see the confusion that's right in front of you because the way you were taught certain things, right? So we sacrifice our children, and they what happens is they become devils. I'm gonna tell you how this works. This is how we bring the devil. We bring the devil home. I've seen this on the continent 5,000 times. I've seen families who put their money together and were able to send their children abroad. The children go abroad. They learn things like medicine. They learn to be nurses and doctors. They come back home to their village or to their country, but they might still service the village here and there. And they bring Western medicine to the village. You just went out, you had a beautiful baby girl, a beautiful baby boy, Kofi, my beautiful baby boy. Oh, look at Kofi. Amma, my beautiful baby girl. Oh, look at Amma. Beautiful and perfect. Born within, this is an important term, within my compound. Inside of my compound. Remember that term, compound, it's important. My children are, oh, beautiful Amma, oh, beautiful Kofi, inside of my compound, where they are learning from me. Then I say, Well, when you get older, you can go to London or Abunika or America, and you can learn their laws. You can learn their medicine. But I'm learning here in the compound. Yeah, but you need to learn what's out there. Pay attention. This is all very important. It sounds like it's not, but it is. So then they go out. Kofi goes out. Kofi goes out and he learns finances. He learns Euro finances. He learns how the devil handles money. Amma goes out. She learns medicine. She becomes a doctor. She learns how doctors deal with medicine. She learns that. Then Amma brings back devil's doctory or hospitality, really, because that's what you're learning. It's called a hospital. Hospitals are not called heel spittals. Nobody gets healed, but we'll make you comfortable. You need an extra pillow? You need another sheet to put over you? You cold? Huh? You want me to turn these lights down? Huh? You want to spend a little bit extra? For $15 a day, you can have a TV with cable. You want to take the keep, see it's on a thing, and you could just move the TV right in front of your bed. Huh? You're comfy, right? Feels good, right? Am I healed? Oh, no, we don't do that here. We don't, no. We got bills to pay. You ain't getting healed up in here. But we will make you comfortable. But then Amma says, well, son of a gun, when I was home, my grandmother lived on the compound with us and my grandfather. And my grandmother and grandfather taught me how to classify over 100 native plants that could be used for different healing services. When I was in the compound, remember what I'm saying here? It's gonna come back. Don't worry, it's gonna loop back around. When I was on the compound, then when I left the compound, I learned about the devil. My freaking parents sacrificed me to the devil. And now when I come back home and everybody celebrates, oh, Kofi's home, oh, Alma's home, oh, we're going to cook some good food for them. Right? We dancing, we got music playing. You celebrating the devil coming back home. Because you sent your child out and turned them into a devil, and now they come back into the home with that. Now they want to argue with you. They want to tell you you're silly and your beliefs are silly. And, we've evolved and you still living in the Stone Age, mommy. You still living in the Stone Age, daddy. Because now the devil's home. The devil's home. Okay, now I'm going to give you, I know I gave you, more allegorical and colloquial example, but I've literally seen this with my own eyes. Like I've watched this. And it's sometimes your brand new devil children bring home a seed of Satan. Now you figure out what that one means. They bring home a seed of Satan. Mom, this is Baba, this is because you decided to sacrifice them. Where have we seen this before? We saw this pretty early on. Genesis 4:12. Genesis 4:12. Yeah, see, it's early. It's early on. This was after Cain did what was, in him to do, right? His murderous self. Let's read about some of the things that were said. And then I'm going to show you how it ties in. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. Now, I'm not going to get back into the in versus the on. I gave y'all that lesson already and told you that there were people who live inside of the earth. I already broke that down to you, gave you the information Go back, check that one out. We're not focused on that right now. We're focused on something else. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. See, he didn't say it to the Most High. This wasn't an issue with the Most High. He said, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. Then in 15 he says, and the Lord said unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord, not the Most High, set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him shall kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. Man, you know how much this is how y'all be sacrificing your children to devils. That's it. That's the whole thing right there. That's everything. Now let's look at it. So Cain, his murderous self, kills, or Cain, which was really his name, kills Habel, his brother, or what you know as Abel. And his Elohim was like, man, get up out of here. Now, first of all, get up out of where? Because we were already kicked out of the garden. Were we? Where are we? Because if my mama and papa, Adama and Hawa, were kicked out of the garden, and now we outside, and they making babies, and you telling me I'm kicked out of here, where the heck are we? Because we were already kicked out. I'm kicked out again? I'm in solitary confinement in jail? I'm out. We were already kicked out, and I'm kicked out of the out? That means they were still on the compound. The Garden of God was inside of the compound known as Eden, or as we say in Nigeria, IDIN. Eden. It's a real place. The garden was inside of the compound. So yes, you can't eat out of this garden anymore. Get out of here. Now you're gonna have to go. You're getting free meals, just going and plucking it. That's done, buddy. Now you gotta go and farm, right? And from the sweat of your brow, you will eat bread. But now you kicking me out of that. This is important. This is really important. You're gonna see it. Don't worry. It's gonna come together. You're gonna get it. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt that be in the earth. What's the critical word there? Vagabond, not just fugitive. We'll get back to that. Vagabond. So when we look at the word vagabond in our Hebrew, it translates to nod or Nodite. Nod. A vagabond was somebody who lived in the land of Nod. Very important. Keep following. Keep following. Just stay with me. Lived in the land of Nod. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Yo, you just killed somebody, bro. And you can't I'm not going to kill you. But you just can't be around us Elohims where we coming in the cool of the evening and we breaking things down and we talking deep sciences and what it's like on other planets and what a nebula is and all of these different things. You're not going to be around that anymore. Because here you have a name. You're in your father's compound. You're in your father's compound where you have honor, where you have a name. What is Nod? Nod is a place that people go who have no name, where all the vagabonds go. And you telling me that that punishment is worse than death because you killed your brother. And I'm not saying I'm going to kill you in return. I'm saying I'm going to send you where the nameless and really godless people are. Just follow. Just follow. And behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. Now, how'd you know everybody was going to slay you who found you? Because you was a stinking murderer yourself. You know how murderers stink, because you was a murderer. You was a murderer. You had an opportunity. You messed something up. The Most High was like, hey, man, this ain't right. You know you shouldn't have gave me nothing from the ground. I got the ground. What? The earth. I don't want that. It's cursed. Don't give me that. And then you gave it to me late. Go back and do it over again. Now I'm killing brother because he's been encroaching on my land. You got to read the full story of Cain and Habel. It's not just what you have in Bereshit. He's been encroaching on my land, and he keeps talking slick. And we don't have the same daddy anyway. So Cain went out from the presence of the Lord Elohim, the Lord Elohim, really the Lords. That should have been plural because Elohim is plural. And dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. So what did it mean when it said that he dwelt in the land of Nod? He dwelt among the vagabonds. He dwelt in a place where, you know, people go to who have no root, right? Who have no root. Now let's think about this for a second. Now that was worse than death. Some of you live in the South. You live in New Orleans, you know, you live in Tennessee, you live in Alabama, you live in Mississippi, right? And what do you want to do when you want to educate your children and show them what the world is? You send them to the big city. That was one of the, you know, to me, the story used to give me nightmares, this song, Living for the City, Stevie Wonder. Y'all know the part I'm talking about. Those of you old enough, you know the end when the guy gets off the bus. TLC did it over. And he's like, New York City, skyscrapers, bright lights and everything. And then the guy runs up to him and he says, hey my man, you wanna make some money real quick? Yeah, man, I just got here. And he hands him a pack. And as soon as he hands him the pack, the cops come in and throw him against the wall. And then you hear the scene later, he's in court and he get locked up for like, you know, 15, 20 years, something like that. He just got off the bus. Living for the City, Stevie Wonder. You sacrifice your children to devils. See, when Cain was being sent out, that's what he knew what was happening. You are sacrificing me. This is worse than just killing me, because if you killed me, I might go into the earth where Habel is. But no, you're making me a vagabond, a wanderer. I'm just going to be wandering around with no root and no cause. Now, where do I go to wander around with no root and no cause? New York City, Miami, Hollywood. These are all the places that people go to who want to leave out of the authority and the instruction of their parents and learn the devil's system. They're full of vagabonds. So when he said, man, you're going to go to the land of Nod, he's saying you're going to go where people have no spirit, people have no culture. People are not even in the presence of the Most High, but they are in the presence of the devils. This is why you have what's called party cities. Atlanta, party city. New York, party city. South Beach, party. Miami, party. Accra, party. Lagos, party. These are party cities. You see, why is there so much party and so much revelry going on in these sort of places? Because there is no Most High. That order, that line of Melchizedek is not in those places. They're run by the devils, plural. Who are the devils? Well, they might be your children that you created. Because imagine if Cain would have came back into the garden after being outside. Well, Genesis 4:15, right? But we read 4:15, right? If Cain would have came back in, he would have been the Nakash. He would have been the Nakash. Because remember, it says that the serpent or the Nakash was the most subtle. He was subtle. How do we know he was subtle? How do we know he was subtle? Anybody ever have like a fly in your house or in your apartment? What's one of the first things you say? How the heck did that thing get in here? You see a mouse somewhere. How did a mouse get in here? Flies and mice are very subtle. They are very subtle. They know how to sneak into places that you have walled off. They sneak in. So, like I told you, Nakash is called the whisperer or the serpent, but in Arabic, he's called the divine one. So what does this tell you? Why didn't the Nakash stay where it was? Because the Nakash, the devils, they always have to come into the tabernacle to get you. Where do you find the devils? In the compound. The Nakash of the serpent, he was a Nodite. He was from the land of Nod. He was a vagabond. He was a wanderer. Remember in the book of Job, where have you been? Wandering, walking to and from the earth, looking for who I can devour. Is that not a description of a vagabond? Walking to and fro? A Nodite. This is someone from Nod. This is a Nodite. The serpent was a Nodite. He comes into the Now, we're using the term tabernacle, but what you'll understand is that the garden and the tabernacle were the same thing. They were called tabernacles later in later books and like in the New Testament, but a tabernacle and the garden were the exact same thing. Because what is the tabernacle? Tabernacle is different from the synagogue. The tabernacle is where you go to be in the presence of your God. They were in the garden because this is where, or even in Eden, where the presence of their God was. So the Nakash sneaks in to the tabernacle to lure people away from the presence of their God. Because isn't that what happened? Weren't they tricked by the Nakash? And as a result of being tricked, now you cannot be in our presence anymore. Then Eve messes around and has a baby with the Nakash, Cain. So now the seed has to be removed from the presence. So when you leave your home and you become educated in the ways of the devils, you will eventually bring those ways back to the garden. You'll bring those ways back to the tabernacle. You know, in Anu, we have a system where when people have to be exorcised out of the space or they leave the space, there's a shunning that happens. And I know that may sound like, that sounds kind of harsh. So and it's not like a mandate. If you talk to them, because many people, they violate it, but it's strongly suggested and advised, once leave them alone. Once they leave, don't speak to them, because all they're going to do is try to beguile you out of the tabernacle. You see that in churches all the time, right? Or even in marriages. Why is it every time a celebrity divorce happens, the wife always writes a tell-all book to beguile other women away from marriage? Or there's a ministry and somebody had a problem in that ministry or church or whatever. The first thing somebody does is they head to YouTube. Tell you about the such and such ministries. Let me tell you about my experience in the such and such ministries. You see, because the Nakash, the serpent, is always going to sneak back into the tabernacle. You're going to find the Nakash in the tabernacle. You might be the Nakash. Where were you educated? Who educated you? Where are you getting your system of thinking from? I said something years ago in Anu, and I said, I don't need proof to kick you out. We're not doing that. If I suspect and feel in my spirit that you are harmful to this environment, I'm kicking you out. See, the devil will always say this. We've had this in Anu a bunch of times. Some members, y'all know people who used to always say things like this. Can you give me an example of what you're talking about? When somebody's being slippery with you, that's their first phrase. Every time you say, I notice, man, you got a certain kind of way about you, or sometimes you lie, they'll pause. Can you give me an example of when I lied? Mother effer, you don't know when you lied? You know what I'm talking about. You know what? Get out. Just get out. But you didn't prove. Get out. I'm going by the law of the Most High. I'm not going by these other people's laws. I don't go by the devil's laws. I don't have to catch you red-handed. I don't have to break down the logic to a point where now you paint yourself in a corner and get out. I feel it in my spirit. You're dirty and you're rotten and you're harmful to this space. Go. You see, there's a difference. There's a difference, because I know that in order for the kingdom of the devils to stay strong, they have to come in and reproduce. How do we know that? Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Your seed. That means the devils have children. That means the devils, they have intercourse. So you were taught that it's a man in a pitchfork with a red suit. But where's the mama devil? If there's a papa devil, there's a mama devil. And then that means there must be a baby devil. Because there's seeds, there's intercourse. Mama, papa, baby, devil. So how do we sort of get into this space what we're speaking about? I'm gonna sort of close out with this concept, this idea. John 8:44. John 8:44 tells you exactly how it happens, and really why it happens. Really, we know what happens. Well, we can go to Isaiah 14:13, right? And you've heard me quote this one a lot because I think it's very significant to a lot of what we speak about. Isaiah 14:13. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. This is being spoken to Lucifer. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yah, the stars of the Elohim. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation and the sides of the north. His desire is to ascend to the highest heaven, into heaven. Now, if you're ascending into heaven, but they're meeting on the mount of the congregation, you're trying to sneak back in. He's like, man, I'm tired of sneaking into the garden, into the compound. But see, the issue is the devils, again, are at war with the Elohim and at war with the creation. The devil's at war. Devil is not at war with the Most High. The devil is just like, I want to be where the Most High is. I want to be where you are. because he says, I will ascend into heaven, into Shemayim. You can't come up here, but you can come to the mount of the congregation when we speak and we talk and we decide and where the kings rule and all that. Yeah, you there still beguiling people and causing them to fall, but where the Most High is, you're not at war with the Most High. You're not at war with the Most High. But like I said, how do we get caught up? And then we say, like, why does this happen? Because if we look at the systems, why are the systems taught the way they are? It's all about the seed. See, like right now, those of you who are listening and taking in what I'm saying, I'm planting a seed. And then it's your job to cultivate it and germinate it and cause that seed of knowledge and wisdom to grow within you. And then when that seed of knowledge and wisdom grows within you, you become a different person. You become a more enlightened person with better vision, who can see the world for what it really is and see that this world is actually a spirit. There's a world spirit that we're dealing with here. It's not just my mayor, my politician, my president, my vice president, and all the foolishness that you're being distracted with right now. We're talking about the issue here is a world spirit, right? So when you come into a space of enlightenment and you receive the seeds as they are given and you cultivate those seeds, then you can actually see the spirit with your own eye, as opposed to continuing to use your weak eyes and continue to be tricked and beguiled. Because remember, it was Hawa who looked at the tree and said, looked at the fruit and said, that looks good. Then ate it and was like, oh, it tastes good. Because being beguiled by the lower senses as opposed to the better ones. So the whole point is, if I can plant, now we're talking about the devils, if the devils can plant their seeds within you or your children, this is what happens immediately once they're cultivated, and they're always cultivated in Western society. There's plenty of fertilizer. We live inside of fertilizer. You will start to want and desire what the devils want and desire. You'll even start to make yourself into the image of the beast. You'll want to look like them. You'll want to want like them. You'll want to act like them. See, that is the whole plan. That's the whole plan. Revelations 11. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood saying, rise and measure the temple of Yah and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. See, what happens is that you start to move with the populations, with the Gentiles, with the Golden. And I'm going to show you one of the ways you sacrifice your children unto devils. You ever seen a little girl, maybe 8, 9, 10 even years old, with hair extensions, painted nail polish, and lipstick? That's a sacrifice to the devils. Because what you're seeking to do in that moment is recreate your child in the image of the beast. There's a beast image. Now, we read about that in the book of Revelations, the image of the beast, right? So the whole point is, if I can plant my seed within you, you will want what I want as a devil. You will desire the things that I want, and you will want to project my image into the world, because in the beginning, the Elohim made man in their image and in their likeness. The Elohim made man in their image and in their likeness. Then we read about devils later in the book. Devils are a result of too much knowledge or too little knowledge. But the devils say, well, I want my followers in my image and my likeness. So in order for you to be in my image and my likeness, you first must do away with the image and the likeness given to you by your creator. So the little girl, we got to put lipstick on her. We got to put heels on her. We got to put fake hair on her. And she wants those things. She wants them because that will be the justification for some parents. Well, she asked for it. She's been doing good in school, the devil's school. And she just wants, this is what all the children are doing, all the little devil seeds. This is what all the little devil seeds are doing who go to the devil's school and get the devil's education. Because when I sit here in front of the devil's media, this is what the girls look like, Astarte. They all have the face of Astarte, image of she's a beast. So now your children want to look like Astarte because you've already began the sacrificial process. And in you already beginning the sacrificial process, you sacrifice your children to devils. Now what happens is what? The devils go to war with you, your children. They sell you out. It's like Nazi Germany all over again. They use the children to sell you out. If you see something, say something. It don't matter if it's your mother or your father, because you are now the seed of Satan. You are of your father, the devil. Now, how do they catch you? John 8:44, I mentioned it earlier. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires or lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie. He speaks from his own resources or his own self, for he is a liar and the father of it. Now, if you read that passage, how did you get caught? How did you get caught? Lust. You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. The lust. So when women seek to look like something other than themselves, they are seeking to become lustrous. That's light. Luster is light. And they are seeking to look like Astarte, the beast. And they're remaking themselves into the image of the beast and not the Elohim. It's all based around lust. You see? So we end up sacrificing our children in the same way that Cain was sacrificed, and our children become Nodites. And there are certain places that we send our children to become trained to become Nodites. I had someone say that to me before about my child and was like, that's beautiful that you homeschooling and your child can speak all these different languages and can do mathematical computations at a very high level, and so forth and so on. Basically, you raised a genius. However, this is what was said to me. Your child needs to learn to get along with different races and groups of people. So you should send your child to public school so they can learn to get along with other races and groups of people. My child is being taught peace and love and harmony inside of the compound of my child's father. Why would I send my child into the world like Cain was sent into the land of Nodite to be around a bunch of cultureless, spiritless, godless people? Because Cain already told us that is worse than death. I can't bear that. So why would I do that to my child when they're getting the proper education of their father already? Because the devil says you should. I'm just here speaking on behalf of the devil. Sometimes it's your mother or your aunties or your brothers or your sisters or your pastor or your neighbor speaking on behalf of the devil. I have gotten many devils try to tell me what to do when it comes to my seed. Many devils. Why do your daughters always wear those skirts and dresses? Don't you want to they want to play with the boys. Yeah, they're going to wear the skirts and dresses. They got tights underneath, so don't worry. They can still go down the slide and everything. They got tights underneath. But they're going to wear skirts and dresses because they're not going to wear what I wear. Why do you always make your sons walk your daughters over to the bathrooms and stuff like that? Yeah, because my sons have to learn to be protectors. As men, we put our lives on the line for those we care about and for what we care about. And my sons have to learn at a very young age to be willing to heal and be willing to kill for what is important to them. You teach your sons to get, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You see, that is the Most High's way of teaching, you know, or I could send them out into the world and teach them that anything. Well, girls can do anything. Girls can wear, listen, girls could, now you're a devil. You're a devil now. Damn. Because I sacrificed you. So in recap, like I said, we're going to close out. I want to thank everyone for coming through. We have Nakash, we have Satan, we have devils. They're not all the same thing. Devils are created through an overabundance of knowledge or through an under insertion of knowledge. Too little knowledge, you will do devilish and evil acts. Too much knowledge, you will do devilish and evil acts. So there's a balancing that comes when you are ordered properly through the Most High. There's knowledge that is secreted to you at the level that is supposed to. And just imagine when you're raising your own children. It's pretty simple if you think about it. If you overexpose your young children to things that they shouldn't be exposed to, they will do devilish things. You know, you like to get drunk all the time, and your children see you drunk, and you look like you have so much fun when you're drunk. And you're always leaving your beer cans around the house with a little bit of beer left in them, or your wine with a little bit of wine left in them. You don't think your children are drinking out of those leftover beer cans, leftover wine? You don't think that's what's happening? I can tell you, I never had a shortage of cannabis as a child. There's always roaches in the ashtray. You can always get a roach at the ashtray. And if you can't find a roach in the ashtray, go into the car. There's an ashtray inside the car in the middle. There'll be a roach in it. And if you get enough roaches, you could, that's what we used to call them. You get enough, those a little bit of blunt that's left over. You get enough of those, you can open them up, and make a whole new one. Get some bamboo rolling papers. You don't use bamboo anymore. And you can make a whole nother joint, which is what we used to call them. But if there's too little information and you keep me ignorant, then you keep me in the world of problems. Because you remember, every problem that exists in the world comes from ignorance. Every solution comes from knowledge. You see, it's a tricky tightrope walk. But if you think about it, it's what we go through every day as parents. How little do you tell your children, or how much do you tell them? Because you know that balance of that will either create a child that's going to behave like a devil or not. You see, so what happens when a Nephilim comes and says, I'll give you technology beyond this world? You say, yes, the art, fruit of the tree of good and evil. You create a devil. Now you're functioning as a devil. You see, Cain already knew about Nod. For him to say, if you send me into Nod, they're going to kill me. What do you know about Nod and Nodites? That means Adoma must have known about Nod. That means Hawa knew about Nod. Everybody knew about these other people. Everybody knew about them. But they didn't honor and respect what they had. They were ungrateful. You are in an enclosed space right now, a compound, where you are getting lessons from those from the sky. And the worst thing in the world is for you to be sent out into the world. We pride ourselves in sending our children into the world today. We pride ourselves in that. We live somewhere in the deep South, and it's just, it's too simple and stuff. So I sent my son to New York City. He goes to NYU. I sent my daughter up to Atlanta. We pride ourselves in that. You sent them into Nod with a bunch of Nodites. You sacrificed them, and they will now return home, if they ever return home, as devils. All right. On that note, on that cheerful note, I want to thank you all for coming through, and thank you for spending this time. And willfully, as always, it sparks some thought. Especially when you start thinking about some of the things maybe you grew up hearing and were taught about, like who the devil is, who God is, who's fighting who. And like I said, let me tell you, the devil is not fighting the Most High. You got to know the difference between Yahweh, El Elyon, the Elohim, Adonai. You got to know who's who. Elroy as well. That takes us to the Jetsons, but Elroy is an ancient word, dealing with the Most High. And of course, as you know, in the Jetsons cartoon, they were in the sky. We'll do cartoons later. All right. But I will that again, there was some thought that was sparked, and it takes you to a better, higher place. As always, the sisters will be on with the after show on the House of Yuya YouTube channel. Feel free. You can always join that discussion with them and, add in. And I notice a lot of times the brothers don't. That's real soft of y'all. I'm just going to put it out there. This is stuff that I don't be saying. I be having my teeth shifted because I be holding back and not telling the truth. I'm going to say this to sisters who are interested in mates and stuff like that. If there's a dude you like and he says he's a part of a certain culture, but you never see him speak up, leave him alone. He's soft. Leave him alone. He's soft. Only soft dudes sit back and watch all the time. They think that's a cool trait. I'm just observant. Observe for a little while, but then you got to jump into the fray with the rest of the wolves. You scared? I'm afraid I'm going to say something dumb. You, sir, are a cat, a kitty cat. You are a kitty cat. Okay, so sisters, if you see a kitty cat like that, don't put no courtship papers on him. He's soft. And soft dudes like to beat up girls because they usually don't have the language to deal with situations. So they hold it all inside, and then eventually they explode and they put your head through a wall. So I'm just going to kind of put that out there a little bit for you, stay away from these softies. Stay away from them. They are very dangerous. If you see a guy who's a part of a community and they are not active within that community, leave them be, man. They just, and I'll get into that. The scriptures talk about that. People who say that they are believers, but they really don't believe. The scriptures speak about that. Those who say they are believers, but really don't believe, they are of the devils. So when you got a guy who's like, yeah, I go to this church, I do this over there, or I listen to this, or I listen to that, but you don't really see them really reflecting that in their actions, or they tell you cute stuff like this. This is more sacrifice stuff. I'm learning it so then I could bring it back to my community. Never, ever believe that. They're lying. They are lying, and that's a devilish way of doing things. I'm going to go out and learn something outside of my father's compound to bring it back to the compound. All I'm going is getting poison and disease to bring it back home. I could go off about that. There's something very deep in that, those kind of statements. We're programmed to say things like that, or I'll ask brothers and they always think I'm dumb. They always have the same little slick smile. When I say like, well, hey man, what are you doing for your community right now? They always smile first. They think I don't catch it, but I catch everything. Like I've said many times, no one is slicker than me. I just have to play this nice, innocent guy because I'm on YouTube. But we all started somewhere, and I didn't start as Chief Yuya. And I can promise you, you ain't slicker than me. You ain't, Look at all the stuff I've been teaching y'all all these years. All this information that I've acquired and still kept you captivated. You know how much wit it takes to do that? How much slickery? Knowing when to ease a story in, then bring it back to something deep, and then call somebody out on something. Hey, I see so-and-so in the chat. What's up, people? Then tell another story, and then hit a scripture, and then go from the Bible to the Quran, and then bring in some Ifa information, then start quoting in the Greek and then telling Roman mythology, and then bring it back to the scripture again, and then tell a story, then tell a joke again. You know how much slickness it takes to do that? You're not slicking at me. I just pretend like you are. But they always do the same thing. They smile. Well, Chief, that's the thing. That's just the thing. Like I'm learning it. I'm learning it so I can bring it back. I'm learning it because my really what I want to do is I want to bring it to Anu. I want to bring it to your community. I'm from New York. We invented what you're trying to do. We invented it. Especially if you're from the South trying to do that. Come on, bro. We invented the slick street hustler thing. It doesn't work on me. But I usually say, okay, brother. All right. So yeah, man. I just wanted to share that with you sisters, man. You got to stop getting with these soft, weak ass dudes, because what happens is you create soft, weak ass children, and then you send those soft, weak ass children into the world, and then they succumb to the devils, and then they come back and they contaminate the whole compound when they return home. You got to give birth to bulls, give birth to freaking alpha wolves, give birth to lions. So when they go out into the world scatters. Get with strong dudes. Be a strong woman. Trust me. If you don't, you're just poisoning your own house. That's all you're doing. Imagine you send your little daughter out to the school, out to the store. Say, hey, go down to the store and go get me some this. We ran out of this. We ran out of some oregano. We ran out of some thyme. You see? And your daughter goes down there and she brings back some poison ivy. So she brings back some poisonous plant, a poisonous mushroom, some fungus, and you put it into the food, and now the whole family is sick and poisoned because what you did, you sent out your weak, silly, foolish-minded ass child who didn't know the difference between fungus and food. So don't have babies with weaklings, man. I'm tired of hearing these stories. I'm tired of hearing you sisters complain. I wish my husband was more like you. Stop trying to choose up on me. I know what you're doing. Stop trying to choose up. That's what you pick. You got to stay with him. I don't want you. You done had weak sperm all up in your brain. Ugh. It's called mycochiserisms. I taught about it the other day. Once he puts that sperm inside of you, it's in there for at least 27 to 50 years. Why would you think I would want you? You're contaminated. You're poisoned. All right. So tune in for the sisters after show. And definitely, if you brothers want to participate, that'll be great. But if you don't, it's okay, too. No problem. I know some people have a quiet spirit, and that's just how it is. All right. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shalom alaikum for all of you who came through, man. And this has been beautiful. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.
Giving honor to the Most High, creator of all worlds, seen and unseen. We stand before you humbly, with hearts ready to receive your infilling of wisdom and spirit. We give honor to our ancestors, on whose shoulders we stand. Without those you designated to come before us, we would not know who you are today. We thank you for the healing balm that you send through our minds, bodies, and spirits. We thank you for giving us a name, giving us a culture, being our watcher and protector. Originator, you are the first cause of all existence. You are the banner of truth that we lift whenever deceivers seek to blind our vision and put us to sleep. Where would we be without the lessons and deep wisdom you have given us to secure a dignified life for ourselves? In times of confusion, we rely on your peace, which surpasses all understanding. You are an El of order. We stand on the promise that you will remove chaos from our lives if we walk in the divine way you have laid before us. We rest with the knowing that you are able and great. Your plans are always the best plans. Our power comes from you. Our light comes from you. Our destiny comes from you. Thank you for all of the graces you continue to bestow on us. Thank you, Most High. Thank you, Father Knowledge. Thank you, Mother Wisdom. Thank you, Messiah, for the words of power. Selah.
Give me your love. You are the hero of my life. Give me your name. Give me your love. You are the hero of my life. gave me your love. You are the hero of my life. I don't always know which way to go, but you see me before I see myself. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling, to present you faultless before the presence of his glory. Now